welcome to Game Milwaukee, and happy Halloween! We're here today with a very special guest, Ruben.
Hello everyone, thank you so much. Really, I appreciate you having me.
I'm really thrilled to have you. I think, we've been catching up a lot, and I feel you and I have a lot of parallels in common with our lives.
For myself personally, growing up in the Milwaukee public school system was difficult.
Yes.
Very difficult. Not only being a minority, but being gay. It's not easy, that combination.
Yeah.
And so I faced a lot of backlash. I was bullied, verbally assaulted, just about it. Everything in the book, name it, I can check it off. It's very difficult.
And when you have that, I feel like when you're figuring things out about your sexuality at that age, it makes you shut down and not want to figure it out.
I don't feel like I was, discovering my sexuality at that age. I knew who I was from a very, very young age.
Really?
Oh, yes. And that's something that I've been very proud of. I've never had any issue with, even in elementary school, I faced a lot of, these issues, being bullied and being...
You knew in elementary school?
Oh, yes. I knew from a very young age, prior to having sex with a man, that I had a sexual, not just sexual, but an attraction to men in particular.
And I'm glad you brought that up because in my experience, I knew I liked feminine things like, I played with dolls and I liked all the girl characters on TV shows, but at that age I hadn't fully processed and connected the dots about sexuality. So that's interesting that you knew right away, because I feel like the idea of sex just went completely over my head.
Likewise, and I agree. Like, when it's about realizing who I am, it was certainly not about sex. It was more so about what I felt was right within myself, what I had an attraction to. I also grew up playing with, dolls.
You go with what resonates.
Yes, and I still remember I used to throw on my mother's pantyhose on my head and pretend I was Sailor Moon, and she would absolutely hate it because all of her pantyhose would rip. So I have never had an issue showing that side of me, that feminine side of me, or disclosing the fact that I had an initial attraction to men at a very early age.
So let me ask you something on that note, because from my experience, my parents were okay with it early on, but the older I got, it became more problematic. How was it for you?
Being Puerto Rican, culturally, it's not something that is accepted in Puerto Rico. So my father is very much this macho man. He never assaulted me or would hit me or would yell at me and say, hateful things about my being gay, but he certainly didn't accept it. It wasn't up until I was in, I would say, middle school, when I started to inform him about all the hate that I was facing in school and the bullying that I feel like he put himself in my shoes and started thinking about, wow, if I find it wrong that these individuals are doing this to my son, let me take under consideration my point of view on this subject and how hateful my opinions have been in regards to his being gay.
There are some people out there, their family members, despite the fact that they're being a victim, they blame you for being a victim, essentially. And it's very scary. It really adds to the fire that can be a really crazy time, as we both know. And to have someone just really rearrange the gears and stop and say, hang on a second, that's very valuable.
Just because he understood did not mean that I was not faced with issues within my household. It eventually became so unhealthy in my household that I willingly left.
How old were you?
16. I chose to be homeless than to live in the house that I was living in.
I understand that. Growing up my father and I, we were homeless. There was soup kitchens, and it was, what, he would tell me as a kid, he's like, we're just cut off from the family because, I'm with black women and, we're not accepted. And that's what he would tell me when I was younger. And I remember how difficult that point in time was. I know how hard it is just not really knowing where you're going to land that night. I get it.
Part of that impulsive decision that made me move and just take myself out of that situation was because of the fact that I felt like I was just getting so much negativity in all of my surroundings that I thought it easier to do that.
And I think when we're at that age too, and we're coming to terms with everything going on regarding sexuality, there's a rawness to it.
There is.
Whatever comes off, it's, like you said, it's a bit impulsive, it's a bit sharper. It's because, when you get subjected to that so much, I feel like a lot of the actions well, not all of them, but enough of your actions can come off a bit more bolder than usual because...
Sometimes you feel like it's your last resort and you feel, okay, this is it. There's no other way around it.
So high school's over. Flash forward. What happened next?
So the abuse, the assaults, it all led to me creating a barrier around myself, protecting what I thought was protecting myself from society and people in general that were attacking me, and giving off that negative energy that would affect me so much.
We were talking earlier, you said you put your walls up.
Yes. And by that I mean, I was revolving myself around a lot of the wrong people, the wrong crowd. It was not a healthy point in my life. And because of that, because of the circumstances that I faced as, such an early state in life growing up, all of those difficult experiences made me, mold such tough skin and build a wall surrounding myself. And it also it does. And it also created this very pessimistic voice inside of my head, always expecting the worst out of every situation and people. And growing up, I moved from Milwaukee after high school. After I graduated, about a year later, I moved to California. So without knowing anyone, absolutely anyone in California, no family, no friends, and spending that time there made me realize, wow, taking a look back at all of the actions I had made here in Milwaukee, the people that I revolved myself with, the manner that I carried myself, and the demeanor that I had, the mindset that I had, it was also very unhealthy. And I didn't blame myself because it was all due to what had happened to me. So I just took it under consideration, and I realized when you do have a mental health illness and you're facing all of these, difficult situations in your life, being homeless, being assaulted, sexually assaulted as well, in my experience. All of those things create, if you allow it, a very negative, how can I put this? Maybe even another person. Because I honestly, I'm not the same person.
Yes.
I'm completely different from who I was 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm so grateful for it because it made me realize that I had that pessimistic mindset and I had to redirect that energy. I had to realize to redirect all of that energy into something positive and use it to my advantage, to not allow myself to dig a bigger hole for myself and to assume that the world does not have good people in it, or that there wasn't a way out of it all.
Yes.
When
it's so easy to fall into that trap.
Yes. Personally, the negative crutches I relied on were sex being one of them, drugs, and that's never the right route to take, right? There's so many negative things that could happen.
Yeah, and it almost defines you.
I had to, again, when I moved to California, it made me realize, wow, all of the unhealthy things I was doing, all of the people that I revolved myself around that were truly not helping me reach my goals that I did have. Because though I was faced with those difficult circumstances, does not mean that I didn't have goals and aspirations and high hopes, not only for myself, but for society as a whole.
I want to rewind a little bit. You talked about sexual assault, and I think that's an interesting topic in regards of, to this day, people still don't believe men can be sexually assaulted.
That's ridiculous. Men can most definitely be sexually assaulted.
I had an episode when I was a kid. I was in grade school, and every day after school I'd go to daycare, and my parents picked me up, and then one day, nobody was there. It was just the daycare lady's son and his friend, and he got on top of me, and it got worse from there. He didn't ejaculate, so I didn't, in this, mind you, in grade school, I don't know what even the word rape means, let alone the action.
Right.
And I remember vividly just, my mother picked me up, and I didn't say anything the entire car ride home. And I remember she kind of picked up on that I was kind of quiet when I was doing my homework, and she just asked me how, the day of school was, something to that effect. And I remember it just came out of my mouth, what happened. And I remember her just looking at me, and her face just got so mad. And I think in my grade school mentality, anybody that's older than you, like let alone a high schooler, like anyone one grade above you, let alone a high schooler, is important, something you aspire to be like, they're cooler. So to say what happened, and she got really mad, obviously, but at the time I didn't know because I'm a kid. I think, I guess I'm telling on, so I don't know what I was thinking. I just know she was mad, and I thought she was mad at me. And I remember, rightfully so, she was mad, but she called up the daycare lady. And at this point, I'm just crying because I can't comprehend what's really going on. And I think what happened was bad enough, and then just to kind of see my mom act that way and feel even more exposed was even worse. And then the daycare lady didn't believe me right away. They didn't believe my mom that would happen. She said her son's not gay. And then there was another kid there that saw what happened. And I told my mom about that. She said to ask him, and he confirmed the story. And I was very grateful my mom believed me. I don't know what it looks like, or even can't comprehend or wrap my psyche around an idea of not being believed in that type of situation. And I think I didn't tell a lot of people about it because 2 reasons. I don't want people to think that, oh, he got molested as a kid or raped or touched.
And that's why you're gay. Right.
People don't really think that can happen to guys. I think I didn't even know that's necessarily what happened. I think due to the fact that when someone doesn't ejaculate, does that really qualify as rape? Is it sexual assault? I don't know. In my mind, when I hear rape or sexual assault, I'm thinking someone's tied down, beaten up, I'm thinking of a girl getting pregnant and having this kid they don't want.
Being placed in an uncomfortable position.
Yeah.
Sexually. Whether it's just, a light touch of the skin. That's still sexual assault if you felt uncomfortable and you didn't, willingly, tell this person, yes, I give you my consent to do X, Y, and Z. It's regardless of what others may view it as, what is a sexual assault and what isn't. If you feel uncomfortable, if you feel not right about it.
And I have to say, I think on my end too, thank God my mom believed me and made it easier, but I think, you put it away when it happens. I think you kind of try to put it away. You try to put it some place where, you know, you try not to let it affect your everyday. You know what I mean?
So not everyone has that strength. And for those who do, that alone, keeping it in a dark place, hidden away, that's not healthy. We do have to disclose that that's not healthy.
And to this day, it's really hard to know what to do after that's happened. I mean, there's some people that
It takes time.
to go through something like that and for people to make it worse.
It's a lot more difficult. And for me, not to go into too much detail about it, but my father didn't believe me. He was the first person I contacted when it happened. My father didn't believe me when I called him. And when the police arrived and they were taking the individual away, that person, to try to get around it and try to, I guess, not be held accountable for his actions, he just lied and said that we were having an affair that was not true whatsoever. You know, the police officer, he didn't bother to ask me my side of the story. He verbally and in a violent manner walked over to me, and mind you, I was 16 at the time, walked over to me and yelled, "So we just spoke to him and he just specifically said that you guys are in an affair. You better not be lying to us," and just like that. And I was so in shock with the way that he was composing himself, just the entire situation. What I'm in shock about is the fact that you are yelling at me, cussing at me, not bothering to at least take a moment to ask me my side of the story, and you're acting like you're the one going through a traumatic event. Whether you've been sexually assaulted because of who you are, or your opinions, or what you stand for, the barriers that may be keeping you from fully expressing your true authentic self because of some fear that you have about disclosing the fact that you may have a mental health illness to your friends or family. People in our community and people in general need to be aware of the fact that you should speak up. You should seek help. We all have the strength to overcome it. And if we just learn how much power we have within ourselves to actually direct our lives in the manner that we want to direct it in, and live the life that we want to live by just not listening to that pessimistic voice that's telling you the world is evil, everyone in it is evil, and these things are going to continue to happen to you.
It's so easy to talk about positivity, and it's a lot of hard work.
It's a daily battle.
There's a lot of stigmas, there's a lot of fear, and some situations can feel impossible.
And I agree.
What about those?
Do not be afraid of the potential outcomes. And if they're negative, they're negative. Do not be afraid of them. Some of them, you would be surprised, will make you one of the most amazing individuals that this world has to offer. And it would give you so much wisdom that you wouldn't have had if you didn't go through that.
Some of the worst experiences that did happen to me, I wouldn't trade them because I don't think I would have made it to this point I'm at without them. Despite the fact they were terrible. You know, to this day, I hate reliving them, some of the worst ones that happened, but at the same time, I think they were essential and necessary.
And it's giving you the opportunity to empathize, not just sympathize, but empathize with other individuals who are going through it or have gone through it and have yet to realize the healthy methods that there are to properly deal with that situation. And being that person for someone else is amazing.
Clearly, both you and I, we've had our moments where we've hit rock bottom. Like, we have seen the bottom. What got you out of it? What was the turning point? What makes it possible?
It was my mindset. It was about what I was willing to accept and what I was not willing to accept. What I was willing to allow to get the best of me and what I wasn't willing to allow to get the best of me.
the universe will teach you, like, they'll give you the same problem over
until you learn from it.
And over until you learn from it.
And it's crazy. To others who do not believe in that kind of stuff, I wholeheartedly do. And I've done a lot of thought about all of the actions I've made throughout my life and how I feel like, wow, that was most definitely the universe guiding me in the right direction.
Like I said, the universe will teach you something by putting the same problem in front of you over and over and over until you master it. And I think, from my experience, whether it's sexuality or the low points or anything, or the people around me, I realized no matter how hard it gets, I need to make a decision, or the people around me will make it for me. And when you're at the mercy of the wrong people, that's terrifying. And I think everybody who's queer knows what that feels like. And I think you have to find that strength.
You have to. One where...
Yeah, and I know it sounds really
harsh.
Yeah.
It does.
But sometimes, like you said, it's either sink or swim. And, I hope one day, the next generation doesn't have to feel that way. Because I think a lot of us, we went through some really just... I'm pretty sure if we tell our grandkids, they'll be like, what? And just a lot of the guests on the show, I've noticed where I'm just like, sometimes you just can't even wrap your mind around someone going through that.
If you're one of those people that are very private and you cannot find that in the circle that you revolve yourself in, or with your family, if you cannot find that support from someone else, at least give yourself the opportunity to find it for yourself and be that person you wish you had. When you look back, you can think to yourself, wow, I am strong. I do have the ability to overcome this. And in that moment, when you did go through it, you may not have that strength, but you even at least just try for just a little bit. But whatever way you can, you'll see that it's always that strength, that courage.
All right, you ready for the questionable?
I'm ready for the questionable. Finish the sentence. I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for blank.
I feel like we just went over this.
And I wouldn't be where I am today. A lot of things go into play. If it weren't for the support of the friends that I had, of time when I was homeless, and if it weren't for myself, for the strength that I realized I do have inside of me.
Definitely. I am so happy you are on the show. Like I said, I think you and I have so many parallel experiences. I think when I look at you, I see so many of the things that I've gone through, and I completely resonate.
Likewise. I'm so thankful that you guys have given me the opportunity to speak.
And if you have an experience or story to tell, be sure to send us a message. All right, we're at Gay Milwaukee. We're signing out. Happy Halloween.